Thank you very much. I really appreciate you showing up this morning, this early, in this cold, wonderful place. Where do I begin? The Starchild skull, as you can see, is the one up. Oh, hang on. Is this one right here? Okay. This is the normal human skull, and this is the Starchild. This is what it looks like on the front. And this is the side profile of the Starchild, and the side profile of the normal skull. Okay? One thing I'm going to say real quick right now is the mind is like a parachute. It works better if it's open. So I'm going to ask you to have an open mind today, but a skeptical mind. Think critically, make a decision on your own, okay? So, where did the Starchild come from? Came from the Copper Canyon region, right outside the little town called Delicias. I'm sure they have great Mexican food there. Okay? How was it found? It was found in a cave by a young girl who was exploring these forbidden mine tunnels. She was told when she went from El Paso to Delicias to meet with family and have a little family reunion, they were told not to go into the mine tunnels because they were dangerous. Well, what does a teenager do? They do what they're told not to do, right? So she went into this mine tunnel and she found a human skull on the surface and the Starchild in a shallow grave laying next to the human skull. She noticed a misshapen hand coming out of the ground right there. And if you notice, it's holding the hand or the arm of the normal human skeleton that was laying on top of the ground. So she decided that she was going to dig up the misshapen hand, and when she did, in a very shallow grave, she found a totally deformed skeleton. So she decided, well, since I'm not supposed to be here anyway, why don't I just collect all of these bones and take them back home? What the hey, right? Well, that night there was a torrential rain, and in the desert, as we all know, what happens when it rains, we get these floods going down the arroyos. So the skeleton all washed away. All she could find were the skulls the next morning. And the Starchild skull had some damage to it. And as all she could find was the skull and part of the upper teeth, the maxilla, just one side. So that's all she was able to bring home. Now, Mom and Dad didn't know she had them, and she didn't claim them at custody. So, what is so unusual about this Starchild, about this skull? It has many external shapes that are different. Here is the normal human skull that was found with it. And here is the Starchild. Take a second, look at it, and think. There's a lot of differences between the two, and we're going to go over each and every one. Okay? There's 24 differences between the Starchild and the normal human skull. Biochemical signatures. Biochemical signature of the Starchild has much more collagen than a normal human skull. Ladies, what does collagen do? It's great for skin, great for wrinkles. Collagen is one of the most abundant chemicals in our bodies. It keeps us all together, okay? The bone is uniformly half as thick as the skull that it was found with. Uniformly. All the way through, it's half as thick. weighs half as much as the normal skull that it was found with. It has the surface of a normal human skull, of a normal human bone, has holes in it called, what's it called? Nuclei. The Starchild has none. The nuclei of our bones is how the bone cells they come out from the middle of the bone, and as they start to die, that's how they get out, so that they can be replenished. And there are little bitty holes in the bone, and I'll show you those holes in a minute. Okay. The Starchild has microscopic fibers that is not found in any bone that we've ever seen before on this planet. Fish, reptiles, any bone. Okay. Starchild has red residue where bone marrow normally is. Now the red residue, we don't know what it is, because when we die, there's bacteria that eat up our bone marrow. This is a 900-year-old skull that still has some red residue inside of it. It's not been eaten up by bacteria. The lower face is much smaller. The Starchild has no eye bridge, no brow line. If you were to touch your brow, you can see that it indents. The Starchild doesn't have that, which means the eyelids have no place to go. The eye sockets are very unusual. The socket shape is only 0.7 inches deep, while ours is 2 inches deep. That way our eyeball fits into it. That tells us that the eyeball of the Starchild is not like ours. The optic nerve, where the nerve goes through the foramen, and the foramen is just a hole. The optic nerve is shaped very differently than ours and is lower set in the eye socket. The roof of the mouth is flat, which is going to affect the way this Starchild eats and talks. The cheekbones are much smaller, which means that the chewing muscles have to be smaller. The chewing muscles they take up half the size of our chewing muscles. If you were to put your hand on your cheek and your fingers going above that, our chewing muscles are like this, but the Starchild's are very small. So that means it's going to affect the way it eats, it talks, breathes. The ear holes are lower. They're set lower on the face. However, the inner ear, the part that we hear with, is much bigger in size. So it's going to hear differently. The neck muscles, they are half the size of ours. Our neck muscles hold us up, right? Well, this one is half the size, so how does it hold up that big skull? There is no external occipital protuberance, which is the bony part that sticks out in the back of your head. If you feel back there, you're going to feel a bony bump. The Starchild doesn't have that. That's where all the neck muscles attach to. Our neck muscles attach to 2 inches from that bump on the back of our heads to our spine. That's 2 inches. Well, this one doesn't have it. So where are those muscles going to attach to? I'll show you in a second. However, when there's an external protuberance, there's an internal protuberance. Well, the Starchild has one, but it's much smaller than ours. What does that protuberance do? It holds the brain in place. Well, if the Starchild is so small, how does it really hold their brain in place? Okay, the rear of the head is very wide, it's expanded, it's flat, but it's not caused by cradle boarding. Okay. There's notable creases. There's a notable crease in the back of the skull at the sagittal, down the middle, and at the back of it. So it's got a heart-shaped look to it. Okay? The brain capacity of the Starchild is 1,600 cc's. Normal adult humans is 1,400 cc's. And a child, which is the size of this head, is 1,200 cc's. A difference of 200 cc's is a different species. The difference in a Neanderthal is 200 cc's different than ours. A difference that big is a different species. The Starchild has 2 rows of teeth, making it appear to be a child. However, the teeth are worn down as if it's been eating normal food for a period of time. There's no way it can be a child. The brain size. This is what the Starchild looks like. See how big that is? See how small the normal skull is? There's a big difference. Bigger brain size, what does that mean? We can think better. Hopefully. Okay? The Starchild, if you notice, right here is where our sinuses are. This one doesn't have any. No sinus infections. Okay? This is the normal skull. And I'm showing you the normal skull that was found with it. Okay? And there's the frontal sinuses. The frontal sinuses is what allows us to talk. Because if we didn't have them, we'd talk like this. Okay? Or like I do when I have a cold. They are also full of air, so they make our head lighter, so we can hold it up. The Starchild, none. And it's heavier. It's got more brain capacity. See anything different here? The brain's light, the bone is lighter, thinner. This is the Starchild. This is the skull, the normal one that was found with it. Now we had to cut out a big piece of these things so that we could do the testing. So you will not see the real skulls out, because this is where the DNA comes from, and we don't want anybody else's DNA in there. Okay? So, but you can see the difference in the size and the thickness. However, the Starchild has these fibers right there, right there. These are all the fibers that we found under an electronic microscope, okay? The atomic microscope. So we don't have any in color, but these are fibers that we don't know where they came from. My opinion is these are what makes the Starchild so much thicker, so much stronger, denser. They look like rebarb to me. Okay, here's the strange residue. These are the little holes where we normal humans make our bone marrow and our red blood cells. This little red residue, we don't have. Bacteria eats it all up. So evidently, the bacteria of death on this planet really doesn't like the flavor here because it's still here. Now these holes are so tiny, at the time, we don't have any instruments to be able to get that out with. Technology has not caught up that we can test this stuff. So we still, to this day, don't know what it is. Hopefully in the near future, we'll have the technology and the money to get that out. Okay? The eye sockets. Here's a normal human eye socket. Here's the Starchild. Pretty cool, huh? Does this look human? This is. So think about it. You know, we've all talked, we've all seen the eyes on fish here. This is what people think or have seen a gray alien to look like. We have that almond-shaped eye. You think this might look like an almond-shaped eye? The almond-shaped eye is so they can see in the dark. Or at least that's the theory. Now, here's the hole that the optic nerve goes through that we can see so that our blood vessels, our nerves, so that we can see. Look how small and the different places it's at. I think it's because they don't need to see the color because they're used to being in the dark. So they don't need that big of a hole for everything to go through. Their blood system may be different than ours. These are all things we don't have answers to, but these are theories. And a theory is something you start out with until you prove it right or wrong. So if you look at the history behind all of this research, our theories have changed as we've learned more about it. Does that mean we're lying? No. That means that the theories have changed as we learn. Starchild, it's not a child. But it's small, so when we named it, we thought it might be a child. Okay? The teeth. This is the maxilla that we have, and it has 2 teeth here, but up in here it's got 4 more. Makes you think it's a child, but then look here. This is worn down from eating food at that time. So it has eaten some food. Actually, the teeth are worn down just like the teeth of the normal skull next to it. There is no way this could be a child. To have that worn of a teeth, even though it's got teeth up top. Kind of makes you think about like how a shark eats. As his teeth fall out, more come in. It's a theory. There is no way these are deformities. Dr. Ted Robinson was one of the first doctors that would allow us to put their name on it. And Ted says that the morphology of the skull is so highly unusual as to be unique in his 40 years of experience as a medical doctor specializing in plastic and reconstructive surgery of the cranium, which is the head. He undertook an extensive review of the current literature of craniofacial anomalies, which failed to uncover a single similar example. He had this skull for 2 years. He took it to many colleagues, and they all agreed. In short, it seems to be not only unique in his personal experience, but also unique throughout the past history of worldwide study of craniofacial anomalies. This is very, very significant. Is this real science? Of course it is. These are just a few of the doctors and scientists who have studied it and who are willing to put their names on it. Okay? So you see here that we've been in Vancouver, we've been in New Westchester, British Columbia, the UK. We've had some geneticists in the US study it. It's been studied all over the world. DNA. All right, basic DNA. We have mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA. The mitochondrial DNA is found outside of the nucleus in the mitochondria. The mitochondrial DNA comes from our mothers. Okay? Nuclear DNA comes from both. This is an ancient skull, 900 years old. It is extremely difficult to get DNA out of it. However, we have recovered both mitochondrial and nuclear DNA, which is a major feat. We all have mitochondria from our mothers, the nuclear from mom and dad, and these DNA are made up of the base pairs, which are the rings of the ladder. Okay, this part, that is the base pairs. Okay, is this a new species? Definitely, it's got to be a new species. There are, in the mitochondrial DNA, you've got 1,600, base pairs. We have been able to get out 120 base pairs of the mitochondrion, okay? There are 80 or more different variations in the Neanderthal, making it a different species. Okay, based on the DNA so far that we have gotten out, we have 800 variations. 80, 800. New species? Definitely. Okay, here's the human. Okay, number of mutations that we can have, 120. Neanderthal, they have 200 variations. The Anzieva, which is just another pre-human that they just recently found, 385. The Starchild, 100 to 1,000 different variations. Chimps, 1,500. You see the difference? Definitely a new species. There's no way this could be human. No way. Okay, nuclear DNA has also been recovered. The nuclear DNA that we've gotten, we have sent through the NIH. Their BLAST program has every sample of DNA that we have found so far on this planet. We sent it, we made the parameters very wide and very lax so we could see what was in there. About half of our samples came back as human DNA. Again, very, very lax parameters. Half of it came back. But what's the other half? Interesting, huh? DNA not found on this earth. Okay? Many fragments showed, the half that showed human, half of it showed no significant similarities found. Nothing in the NIH database was similar to the DNA that we have from the Starchild. Meaning, different from any other species found on Earth. Any other species. Okay? No significant similarity. None. This is the report we got back from the NIH. The actual report, I'm showing it to you. Okay? FOXP2. FOXP2 is a part of our DNA. It's the part that gives us the ability to communicate. There is no difference in any human in the Fox DNA. No difference. If you have one variation, you might live. Any more than that, you do not survive. Okay? The Starchild, 56 variations in just a little bit of sample we have. If you were to do the math, we're going to have over 100 variations or more. There is no way, if that was a human skull, it would have survived long enough for the bones to develop, for the head to be closed in, to be sutured in, or the teeth to be worn. There's no way. It's a different species. I want you to notice I'm not saying it's an alien, because we don't know. And I don't know if we'll ever know, because we don't have an alien to sample. So I'm just going to tell you it's a different species. Do I think it's alien? Of course I do. The differences. In humans, there are no differences between us. A rhesus monkey, they can have 2 variations. In a little mouse, they can have 20. A dog, 27. An elephant, 21. Whatever that thing is, 21. And I can't even see that one. 26. The Starchild, 56 variations. Human, Starchild. What do you think? Different species. How can the DNA be human-like and some not be? Like anything else found on Earth. The percentages of DNA shared with the monkey, 96% of our human DNA you can find in a monkey, in the chimpanzee. Cats, they have the same DNA we do, 90%. A fruit fly has 60% of our DNA. Yeast has 26%. You feel special? You carry the same as a yeast virus does. I don't feel too special. Is the Starchild special? Definitely. Okay? Many species carry the same DNA as we do. It's perfectly natural to have differences in species and be able to survive on this planet and be similar. They must breathe the same air as we do. They synthesize the same proteins as we do. It would be strange if we didn't have some commonalities. But the Starchild doesn't have a whole lot. How do you know this isn't a mutation? How do you know it's not just a deformity? Do you think of that as a deformity? I'll tell you how we know. A child that's born can have up to 2 deformities and survive. 3 or more, it does not survive. That's why many people have miscarriages, because it's going to have some DNA deficiencies or mutations. Now you ask, how do I know this? I'm a neonatal nurse. I've worked with chromosomal disorders. I've worked with infants with deformities. I've taught physicians this. I work here on the border. I work in a county teaching hospital. Of course I have seen almost every mutation there is in the books. The Starchild looks nothing like that. Okay, it lived long enough for the teeth to wear. So it was used. That's not a human. It's not a human deformity. There's no way it can be. Can we make this in a lab? Yeah. They've been able to make things and hibernate things in labs and make them hybrid. Do they survive? Not a chance. We've all seen where an ear's grown on a mouse's back. Does that make it survive? No. Okay? You can do anything in the lab. Does it survive? Chances are not. Does it make it an alien? I don't know. Check it out. That's what we normally think of as a gray alien, right here. If we did a forensic reconstruction, this is one of what we think it might look like. Does it look human? Remember, when you do something like this, you make a drawing, you're going to draw, or any type of artwork is going to come through a human's eyes. So most of the people that we've taken this to have used their own experience to make this. We had a facial reconstruction done with the clay, and the guy who did it, we asked, well, how did you put the eyeball in there? He used a round eyeball, one of ours. You know what he said? I just cut it in half. Now, how can you cut an eyeball in half and it's C? He didn't have a reference. And they're not about to make it look like a gray. What would happen to their credibility in their field? They'd be crazy. They'd lose their job. They'd lose their credibility, their reputation. Oh, and that wonderful paycheck that we all need to eat. and raise our children with. So this is why a lot of the scientists and physicians that have looked at this won't put their name on it. You put the skull on their head, on their desk, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's alien." When you say, "Can I have your name?" they show you the door. When you ask them, "Well, what is it?" It's cradle-boarded. It's a hydrocephalic. Hydrocephalic means there's water on the brain. There's no way it could be. Absolutely no way. The eyes, again, they're deeper. These are shallow. The holes where the nerves go in, totally misshapen, totally different. And then look at the bridge of the nose. This is ours, and look how flat the Starchild is. What do you think? Now, they have found some similarities or some things that are going on in an astronaut's eyeball when they've been up in space for more than a month. Their eyeballs tend to flatten. In zero gravity, in the darkness, their eyeballs change. There's no explanation for why theirs do, but I think it kind of explains why the Starchild or Gray may have flat eyeballs. Not only would it be genetic for them, but if they live in zero gravity, they live in the dark, their eyeballs are going to be totally different than ours. They have to do different things. Okay, astronaut eyes are the closest things to the Starchild eyes because they spend more than 6 months in zero gravity. Could this mean it spent years in space? Possibly. Just because it was found on this earth does not mean it started on this earth. It died here, but it doesn't mean it started here. The bone marrow. Again, we have the red residue. We think it's bone marrow. We don't have that when we die, especially not if we've been in the ground for over 900 years. Okay? Human bone marrow is completely eaten up by bacteria. The red residue of the alien bone marrow, or this alien substance, didn't get eaten up by bacteria on this planet. Who knows what would have happened to it on theirs? We don't know. Okay? Why haven't you seen this or read about it? Has anybody seen this or read about it before? Okay. The reason why you haven't is because you blinked. Because we've been everywhere. We've been everywhere. If you Google Starchild, oh my God. If you YouTube it, there are over thousands of YouTube videos out there on the Starchild. Okay. They don't have me in them, but they are there. We will be featured on Ancient Aliens in February, so keep an eye out for it. Keep an eye out for it. They are featuring us. They're not giving us a 5-minute sound bit. It's about us. We've been on National Geographic, BBC, the Discovery Channel, the Learning Channel, CBS News, Fox News, the History Channel, Animal Planet. So we've been around. Most of Hollywood and these places, what do? They make fun of us. Anybody feel silly with the little aliens on their head? They make fun of us, don't they? They think that you're here with tinfoil on your head. This is serious science. Now, Lloyd Pye. Lloyd Pye was my lead researcher. He had the project since 1999. In February, it's when I met him. I had the skulls for less than 6 months. Didn't know what to do with them. Lloyd Pye passed away in December this year. His last conference he spoke at was Presidio. His first conference where the Starchilds were introduced was in February at the International UFO Congress. in Laughlin, February 1999. He spent the last 15 years of his life trying to find out what this was. And I hate to say it, but he didn't make it to find out exactly what this was. And it just hurts me to know him, to tell you how much I miss him. But we will continue the research. We will continue the fight. There is a team, the Starchild team, that is working on it. There are 5 of us. I'm the founder of it because I got the Starchild. Lloyd, lead researcher, because he was the first person that was willing to take it on. We have Amy Vickers. She's our researcher and cohort over in Europe. We have Matthew Brownstein. He is our Chief Operating Officer, which basically means he's got business knowledge and he can probably get us the money we need. And he's also taken on the East Coast to represent us on the East Coast. I've taken on the rest of the country and the rest of the UFO field to follow that. We are trying very hardly to get mainstream science, mainstream media, and people who don't believe in UFOs to understand that this is real science. It's a real skull. It is not a hoax. Okay? You can read Wikipedia, or we call it Wikipedia. You cannot believe everything that's on the internet. Wikipedia has done nothing but downplay us, tell everybody that we're stupid, that it can't be true. You go on to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is an encyclopedia on the internet that you can literally change what's on there, whether you knew it or not. Okay. You can't change the Starchild. Just to let you know, they will not let you change it. If you change it, within 15 minutes it's changed back. So there is a conspiracy, if you will, against the Starchild on Wikipedia. So, if you have any questions or anything, I'll be around. One question.
Yes, I'm just curious about the evidence that you've got. Are y'all ever worried that government entities or non-government entities might try to steal any...
I'll tell you right now, none of us are willing to die for it. Okay? And in 15 years, nobody has asked for it. None of us is willing to die for it. So if they want it, go for it.
Yeah, there's all kinds of artifacts and stuff that are coming out, and everybody's scared that it might be taken.
Let them. You know, what will be. Okay?
Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to get ready for our next speaker. If I can have Mr. Carlos Guzman up here very shortly. So let's go ahead and sit back, folks, and we'll get ready for our next speaker.